Wellness has come to mean so many different things, from green juices and meditation apps to ice baths and biohacking. What started as ideas of taking care of our physical and mental health has over decades turned into a multi-trillion-dollar industry that's constantly selling us new ways to optimize ourselves, to prove that we're doing it right. Whatever happened to simple, balanced ways of taking care of ourselves? So having been part of the wellness world for 15 years or so, I feel like I have a really interesting perspective on today's topic. I studied holistic nutrition and built an online business around that over 10 years ago. I've seen dozens of trends come and go, many of which I've tried myself and shared in my own videos as a creator. I've watched and been part of the industry exploding more and more and more over the years, especially as social media has taken over so much more of our lives. Many wellness habits that I've implemented in my life have genuinely been so helpful, many of which I'll talk about in today's video, but others, not so much. My views and my understanding of wellness have evolved a lot over the years, and that's kind of what I want to talk about today. What I now see as being anywhere from possibly to overtly problematic, and what I do differently in my life now to truly be well. I want to take things back to when I was around 19 years old and how the way I lived my life started to change based on a philosophy that I adopted. I don't know exactly what sparked it, but it became my worldview, and pretty much all of my lifestyle choices for many, many years were guided by this simple idea, and that is that natural is always better. There's many aspects of natural living that I still very much value, but this way of thinking can fuel many different kinds of wellness movements and beliefs that I will get into in today's video. I didn't know it at the time, but this is known as the appeal to nature fallacy, the idea that something is automatically good simply because it's natural, and something is automatically bad simply because it isn't natural. Whether it's thinking herbal medicine is automatically better than conventional because it's natural, even though naturalness alone doesn't prove safety or effectiveness, or unpasteurized is better because it's in its natural state, even though this can increase the risk of things like foodborne illness. I didn't wear sunscreen for many, many years because I felt that it was unnatural, even though I now know in my life that SPF is one of the most researched and effective ways to protect our skin from sun damage and early skin aging and skin cancer. Now, if there's one thing that I have learned over the years, it's to not get trapped in black and white thinking, either this or that. Two things can exist in our life together. I do still opt for some natural ingredients or remedies or products. I value prioritizing lots of plant-based, whole foods, spending time outdoors, outside in nature, choosing gentler skincare products, or opting for non-invasive lifestyle-first interventions as needed. But at the same time, I'll still use over-the-counter medicine as needed. I appreciate that technology in food safety and preservation can actually help us to live healthier lives, not unhealthier lives. Some of you probably remember that I was so huge into the paleo diet back around 2017. This was like my whole shtick. I believed in it to my core. When I was first entering the wellness world back in 2010 or so, I was into raw food movements, raw veganism, fruitarian diets. I'm no stranger at all to restrictive eating and dieting. I've been gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free. I've followed a number of elimination diets because of really bad IBS that I had many years ago, including the low FODMAP diet that was actually very helpful. And it goes without saying that there are a number of therapeutic or elimination diets that can have a place, a time and a place, whether it's someone who has celiac disease or perhaps food allergies like my daughter does. But I've seen that a lot of restrictive eating comes from just purely an obsession with optimizing our health, which I'll talk more about in a minute, and just kind of demonizing food groups out of a deep-seated fear of a lot of foods. And I know this because I've lived this. There are so many things that we can just see as this like blanket food that is the single cause of disease or that everybody should be avoiding. And these mindsets at their best make us hyper aware of everything that we're eating, and at their worst can spiral into full-blown disordered eating patterns, which is exactly what happened in my case. Honestly, I get it. I fully get it. Like, in a world where ultra-processed foods are lining grocery store shelves and mounting evidence of the risks of over-consuming these kinds of foods, it makes sense to be wary or cautious of these foods, but balance can and does exist, and it's something that I have so much more of in my life now. I have, over the last several years, implemented so much more mindful eating, some intuitive eating, and focusing on all of the things that will help me to feel my best, while also allowing all kinds of other foods that I enjoy, just for the sake of enjoying them. And I no longer have so much stress in my life about worrying about every single morsel of food that I eat. Detoxes and juice cleanses and coffee enemas, yes, putting coffee up your butt. These are part of many wellness movements, and they're based on the idea that we need to purify our bodies. Cleanses, a lot of them that are out there, can lead to overuse of things like harsh laxatives, which can lead to bowel dependence. Coffee enemas can be really hard on our digestive systems. Weight loss, which is sometimes the goal with these kinds of things, is usually temporary just due to extreme calorie restriction. Most people can benefit from very simple lifestyle practices that help to support the health of our body and also our detoxification pathways as well, like drinking lots of water, staying hydrated, eating lots of fiber. This is excellent for bowel health and helping us to eliminate more effectively, and moving our body. Sweating is really important here, and all of these things are far more effective and sustainable for supporting our health and our longevity. I absolutely use or have used and enjoyed things like superfoods or supplements over the years because they're fun, or they add a boost of nutrition to my smoothies, or they've been necessary, like my iron supplements that I've taken for iron deficiency, or using things like essential oils because they smell beautiful. But what I stay away from is the extreme side of that world. Especially when there are claims being made that a product can unequivocally balance your hormones or fix your gut or detox your body or fix some kind of disease. We like to think that the world of wellness is all virtuous, but the truth is, and I say this fully recognizing the many benefits of many different kinds of wellness practices and habits, many of which are still very much a part of my life today. But wellness is a multi-trillion-dollar industry, and what comes along with any big industry is it being built around selling us things. And both things can be true, right? We can have aspects of wellness and the industry that are pure and wholesome and really, really beneficial. And there can be marketing that plays on our insecurities and our fears. It can make us feel like we're one product away from being clean and balanced and, achieving perfect health. But no pill or powder or essential oil can really do that. And for me, wellness has become so much more about grounding things in reality, still using certain kinds of products that do help me to feel good. And I do think that a bunch of them can have a place in our life depending on our health goals or our health needs. But also remembering that wellness doesn't have to be about something that you buy. It can just be how you show up for yourself, how you care for yourself, how you rest, how you feed yourself, and how you live your life, and not about how many products you're using. I see the appeal, and I have seen the appeal of wellness in my life. Like, it's been part of the reason why so much of it I have been drawn to, like a lot of us are. Who doesn't want to feel their best? Who doesn't want to take control of their health and have that autonomy and, avoid health issues? Of course, people want that, and I think everyone deserves that. Well, there's a difference between caring for your health and trying to control. I used to think that the more effort I put in, the more strict I was even, the healthier I would be. But sometimes the healthiest thing that we can do for ourselves is to relax and stop trying to micromanage every single aspect of our body and our life. Wellness doesn't need to be a full-time job. And hear me out on tracking devices. I don't actually think that all tracking is bad. I think that it can have a useful place depending on what our health needs are. For example, I track my menstrual cycle every single month. I've done that for so many years. I find it gives me very useful data each month. Some people do find it useful to track their sleep patterns or maybe their blood pressure or something like that. But with all the tracking devices and watches and apps that are on the market today, it has the potential to become something that's very obsessive and can kind of take over your life. Let me know in the comments, do you use any of these things? You have an Apple Watch or one of those rings, or let me know if you do find them useful or if you find that they're just too much. Another trend that I've stepped away from is the whole self-help meets hustle culture mindset, where personal growth gets kind of tangled up with constant productivity or goal setting or being our best selves. The belief that we have to make the most of every single moment. And I used to be really, really big into a lot of self-help gurus. I was huge as well into business building and motivational speaking, really, really big into hustle culture, basically. I loved listening to podcasts on how to scale my business and get shit done, but it actually took reaching burnout back in 2019 for me to realize that something wasn't quite right. I didn't have my priorities straight. And to be honest, since then, I've never been that level of ambitious as I was back then because of what it did to me. There's this subtle messaging within the world of self-help where your worth is tied to how productive you are and what you achieve and how disciplined you are and how much you're able to overcome personal struggles. And I heard a quote recently that I love. It was something like, what was it? Knowing that you don't want something is just as valuable as having achieved that thing. So often we think that we want something, maybe because we see others have it, or it's the norm, or it's trending, and we can put so much effort and time into achieving or maintaining a certain kind of lifestyle only to realize that it's not actually what fulfills us. But there is so much peace. There is this quiet relief that comes from choosing to opt out, in realizing wait, I actually don't want that. I don't need a 4 a.m. morning routine. I don't need, to track my steps or optimize my brain or, manifest some new version of myself. Sometimes real growth comes from recognizing what doesn't align with you and actually recognizing the things that you don't want, even if so many other people seem to be doing it. There's this idea that self-care is all bubble baths and face masks and a fancy day planner, and those things can be ways that we care for ourselves. Like I like and I do a lot of, these kinds of things. But in some cases, they can distract us from what our deeper needs are. Real self-care can sometimes be harder than that. There's a book called Real Self-Care by Pooja Lakshman that I've mentioned before, and I highly recommend it. And one thing that she says in the book is that you can't meditate your way out of a 40-hour work week with no childcare and no paid sick days. And I feel like this is a really good way to illustrate just how complicated our needs are sometimes. I wish that I had all the answers here. I don't, but just know that if you do feel burnt out or overwhelmed or spread thin in your life, it's not always your fault. It's sometimes the reality of existing within the system that we exist in, but that self-care dogma will sometimes lead us to believe that if we just buy this luxurious facial treatment, then that will kind of solve our problems, when a lot of times it's so much deeper than that, and sometimes harder than that. Like it's not always comfy to do the things that we need to do. It's often a lifelong journey of so many things, like asking for help when we need it, community support, letting go of the things that don't serve us, setting boundaries. Self-care for me now is very intentional. It looks a lot different than it used to. I also recognize that I'm in a very privileged position to be able to access things like therapy, have childcare, to be able to take time off of work when I want it or when I need it. But I also know that some of the most important ways and like life-changing ways that I have cared for myself have been through choices that I have made, like leaving relationships in the past that weren't right for me and building a supportive partnership, getting clear on the things that matter to me, the things that I value, and actually making time for those things, or meal planning every week so that I have nutritious meals on the table each night. A lot of these things over the course of my life have taken courage at times, have taken time, have taken effort, but they've had long-term payoffs and rewards for me in my life for supporting my well-being. So yeah, getting our nails done, having a spa day, whatever it is, like these things for sure have a time and a place. It's good for us to treat ourselves sometimes and to feel good in some of these ways. And I do think that they can be ways that we care for ourselves, but deeper self-care really goes so much more beyond those things. So that is it for today's video. Trends that I have seen and that I either no longer follow, or different philosophies that I no longer buy into. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I would love to hear from you in the comments if there's something that you feel like no longer serves you when it comes to wellness. Respectfully, of course. I know a lot of these kinds of topics a lot of people can have different opinions on them, but most of all, what I really think is that wellness should make us feel lighter, not heavier and like stricter. And sometimes that means letting go of trying to do all the things or trying to do everything perfectly, but rather just focusing on the simple basics, that help us to feel our best. And only you know what that is for you. Everyone's meaning of well-being is different, and only you know what is best for you. So that's it for today's video. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.